rear. Very nice job taking cover behind that half-track, but sadly half-tracks aren't that great cover against high explosive shells from a Panzer IV, but riflemen moving in with sticky bombs. Sadly going to make it very painful for that Panzer IV to be in that position. There we go, sticky bomb away. And off-map combat group as well. M10 Hellcat firing away. Really doing quite a bit of damage to that Panzer IV. Oh dear, that looked like it deflected, but tank busters with numerous Panzergrenadiers are quick to move in, which will certainly force that M18 to get out of there. 50 caliber machine gun also joining into this chorus of gunfire and blood screams. And M18 down to its last leg, but heavy machine gun setting up right here, since he doesn't seem to have a mortar half-track. Schwimmwagen suddenly on the field as well to join in the rest. Medics continuing their hunt for the wounded and recovering them. And a light engagement around here. Engineers against a lot of Panzergrenadiers with assault rifles. So far retaining most of the victory points. Panzer IV moving towards the center, getting some repairs, but what is this? Mortars were also part of the arrangement, and in fact I have two, so merrily firing away, just bombarding the central area. And a shower of mortar grenades. That's absolutely brilliant. In fact, this tank buster team is almost wiped out with a couple of those. And in fact, there's already veterancy 1 for one mortar team. And I also have supply yard upgrade number 2, which increases veterancy by a lot for my riflemen and other units. So that's of course also a rather nice reason. But of course it also decreases upkeep by even more. Panzer IV sneaking in here, perhaps hoping to catch that mortar team off guard. Looks like it. A bit risky though, sending in a damaged Panzer IV without any support. But the M18 is quick on the spot, firing away, destroying the engine, and a mortar round from this lucky mortar team knocks it out. Amazing. And still he's sort of relying heavily on those infantry teams, of which he's now suffered quite heavily in terms of attrition. He still hasn't really tried using that advantage he had with the heads early on to sort of push through. Instead he's continuing to throw infantry and the occasional mortar half-track at me, but not really able to push any sort of advantage and push me out of the central area. And he doesn't really either fortify his positions around the other two victory points and then force me to come to him like that, which could certainly also work. Instead he's basically attacking me in the center while not defending either victory point, which is certainly giving me the greatest advantage. Large forces moving towards the south, partly hoping to catch the Schwimmwagen off guard, but also to retain these territories. Surprised he's not using it to lay down mines, as those can actually be a bit effective, as the Schwimmwagen with the tank destroyer upgrade gets mines as an ability. They are a bit more expensive, but there you go. Panzergrenadiers moving towards the center, coming under fire, suppressing the riflemen with those Gewehr 43s. And 30 caliber will probably soon be opening fire. There we go. There we go. Yes. Suppressing them, and they are dropping incendiary grenades right through the window. And the 30 caliber is quick to get out of there. Now we have a bit of a problem there. He's sort of threw in his Panzergrenadiers, hoped to knock it out, but it's not going to be a definite kill. Instead he's in fact lost a lot more, including munitions, and then forced to retreat out there, which means it was a pretty pointless attack. In fact, he gained absolutely nothing. No decisive kills, no territory. In fact, he suffered more. I mean, you have to think about those sort of attacks. Do you actually gain something? I mean, if you're making assault and willing to lose some men, actually stay there, otherwise it's pointless. The only reason you should really sacrifice men is if you actually stand to gain some ground you can then fortify. If not, you're just basically throwing away men and basically acting like you're the Soviet commander, which you're not, because the Soviets aren't in the game. Securing the southern victory point once more giving me the advantage. We have a nice Panzer IV right nearby. Fresh off map combat group, another Hellcat, another T-17, and some riflemen heavy machine guns. The Hellcat currently I'd say is the better of the two tank destroyers, because the M10 Wolverine has a bit of a curious bug due to animations, which means that some of its shots will in fact not fire at all. whereas the M18 doesn't suffer that. It's in fact a lot faster. Yes, frontal penetration isn't so good, but it's faster, so you can easily flank around the rear. It has a heavy machine gun mounted on it, plus it can cloak, so it certainly is very nice on those points, but it hits one of the few remaining tiller mines and goes out of control. Certainly a bit fun. I had forgotten about those, but ultimately those tiller mines didn't really do much, and of course the tank destroyer doctrine hasn't really helped him much either. In fact, it's probably crippled him, and he'd probably be doing better with Luftwaffe or Scorched Earth either to defend what he has with some booby traps, or at least lend some Fallschirmjägers, Wirbelwinds or anything to his attacks. But again, neither has yet to really appear. Not even the Hetzer. And now this mortar half-track is getting knocked out by this T-17.
The enemy is down to 25.
So certainly still standing with the advantage. And T-17 trying to hunt down this mortar half-track, but it doesn't want to get too close to these flak failings. There we go. Mortar half-track number 3 wrecked. That's certainly going to cost the 17th SS later in other battles with that many motorized mortars out of the fight. And mortar grenades raining down here. Panzer IV moving in, but coming straight into engagement with this M18 Hellcat, and there you go. Game is over. So what did we learn from this? Well, don't blob up, don't just throw hordes and hordes of infantry at your enemy, in particular as the Panzer Elite, as those are expensive to reinforce. Yes, it can sometimes work, and with the Americans it does usually work more than often against the Panzer Elite, but still it's not exactly the most brightest of tactics, and of course you can easily lose up a lot of troops due to bad finesse, like for example standing right out here, focusing on the unit in heavy cover and getting cut down excruciating. Other things, of course, don't send in armor unsupported, and of course try to defend your territory. I mean, he could have held these 2 victory points. Yes, it would have been difficult, but instead he just sort of attacked from the same direction at this central supply yard. Of course most of the supplies have been blown up, but there you go, still a bit foolish tactic. He didn't really go for hedges, which could certainly have helped him a bit. In fact, his use of the doctrine was quite questionable. First off, he went for it extremely early, without really having ascertained that I would go for vehicles. Instead, he just, in fact, blew his hand with those tiller mines, in fact, tipping me off to, oh, hey, I'm supposed to go for a lot of infantry. Brilliant. Secondly, he didn't really then use it to the sort of extent he could have. The Hetzer, for example, being alright against infantry, and could, in fact, have dealt with anything right in the center and knocked out the heavy machine gun and forced me out of the center. But he didn't. Instead, he just threw more Panzergrenadiers at me, and of course, I gleefully cut them down. So that's certainly also something to note. Of course, mine usage, there were good mine usage, there was bad mine usage, like placing down tiller mines everywhere without no much reason. So, I hope you enjoyed this match. If you did, why not subscribe or tell your friends, and if you didn't, well, why not send in a replay of your own. This is ImperialDane saying, don't just throw infantry at your opponent in the open. Cheers!